What's up, you guys? This is HJ here, and welcome back to another review video. I know I said I was going to do it at some point, but here it is. Welcome to my review of the HP laptop, but this time it's got a little bit of a twist because in this edition I actually have a new model. This is the 2023 slash early 2024 model. This is the FD0000 base model, and this one's rocking an Intel Core i5 1335U. Now, the body of this thing is actually very cool. It's clean. I got the silver color, not the black color. Now, you guys can also pick this up, and I believe a black color for this particular model. There are some models, like the cheaper versions and the HP Stream, that can get different colored lids, but the base model for the FD000 is the silver and black tones. So I'm going to go ahead and go over the ports, and then I'm going to go over the speakers that you get on this thing as well. They're on the solar alert on the bottom. So on the left hand side, you have a USB-A super speed port. This one's 5 gigabits per second. You have an HDMI 1.4, and the problem with that is it's not going to be the best HDMI port out there, but you will still be able to use this functionality. But since this is really a mid-range slash budget laptop, it's not going to have the fancy schmancy features that gaming laptops have with the Acer Nitro I reviewed a while back. This is the USB-C super speed port, also 5 gigabits. No display port, no PD. That means you can't charge it. That means you can't connect a dock or any kind of display to this USB-C port. So you only really get one display out unless you have an HDMI splitter. You get a headphone jack on the right. This is microphone combo, so you can plug a microphone in or headphones if you choose to do so. On the other side, you have a power connector and another USB-A super speed port, which is the exact same as the one on the left. The power adapter is 45 watts. Give me 1 second here. I'm actually going to pull that out so you guys can see that. 1 second. So this is the 45 watt power adapter. The 45 watt power adapter that comes with it is pretty small. Now, me personally, I have a recommendation before I move on. If you guys are planning on doing anything heavy with the new Windows update, because of the smart power management feature, I would highly recommend getting a 65 watt smart pen adapter from HP to go along with this charger. That's going to prevent battery drain. So if you're doing any power tasks or anything, not only can you charge the laptop faster for a short period of time, you can also do light gaming and video editing without having to worry about your battery draining if you do anything really demanding. I actually got my 65 watt charger yesterday, and that has really helped out a lot. So now we're going to go and look on the bottom of this thing. So on the bottom, you have this air intake vent, which honestly, if I'm being serious here, which I really am, the fan is only on one side. So I'm not complaining about it. It's more compensation for thermals, but it really doesn't give any real benefit. Like, the thermals are like anywhere between 30 upper 20s to almost 40 something, which is not bad for an iGPU from 13th gen, but the way that they did the vent on the bottom makes you think that it would be a lot more ventilation because it's just so long. And to be fair, as long as they place the vent over top of the fan and they place vents in the hinge over here like they did here, it really wouldn't make a very big difference. So I don't see why they did that, but hey, thermals is thermals, and I'd rather them overcompensate than undercompensate. So good job there. Now the speaker grills, these are the two speakers. They are stereo, but they're not that good. They're not as good as like something you'd find on like an Asus, or not as good as something you find on a mid-range Lenovo like the IdeaPad Flex, or perhaps maybe even the Slim lineup. They're not going to be that good. They're decent. They're not terrible like the Acer Nitros prior to audio enhancements with Dolby Atmos, but they're still really, really good, but they're not as good as a higher end laptop. So they're gonna be fine. If you're gonna do anything with this and you're just using this for school, you're gonna use headphones anyway, because most people are not gonna have this out in their school library actively using whatever they're doing out loud. Now, this is the inside. The model that I have here is backlit. Now, I have to point something out, and this is really important. If you guys, for any gals, for any reason, pick up the Walmart config, that's the store bought and ready, or the Best Buy config in the US, your model for i5 and AMD Ryzen will not have a backlit keyboard. If you pick up the pre-built config and you pick up the 12th gen i7 or the 13th gen i7 from Best Buy or Walmart, your keyboard will have a backlit keyboard. If you order it directly from HP in the US, all of them should have a backlit keyboard for the most part. That's the kicker. You have to be careful which model you get. Most pre-built models, except for the high-end ones like the Ivans in Walmart, I checked because I've been there several times and I've been to Best Buy. Those models, unless you get the i7, do not have the backlit keyboard. That is the only catch to getting the pre-built model. You will have to order it if you want the i5 to have a backlit keyboard. Now, opening it up, it does have a fingerprint reader, which is really cool. It had, like I said, backlit keyboard, full function row, media keys. My only issue is that the power button is beside the delete key and not on the right where the page down key is. I wish they would have, kind of swap those around a little bit. But the key travel on this, really good. Like, this is just a typing test, and like, my fingers are so happy that I have a keyboard that's actually finally decent on one of these. The last one I had with the 11th gen model, that keyboard was okay, but this one, oh my god, is so much better. Thank you, HP, for putting this in. I can't tell you how many times I've used the laptop keyboard, and the laptop keyboard does not feel good. Even my Acer Nitro, I have some issues with the actual key travel of it. Happy to say on a lower end laptop, this is actually finally good. So thank you for doing that. Also, trackpad is finally good. So trackpad is larger. You can see that there. It's way larger. So you're not going to have any issues with like running out of room if you have large hands, like my big sweaty palms, to try and use your finger gestures. You will be able to do that comfortably here without any problems at all, which is awesome. Now for speaker test. So to test out the speakers, I'm going to play NCS. Please don't roast me. I do have Universal Music. Give me 1 second. I got Universal Music for creators. I'm gonna do a speaker test in about 2 seconds. Talk amongst yourselves and I'll be right back. This is a speaker test and I'm gonna do it at about say 20% volume, because with the Dolby Atmos enabled, it's gonna be a little bit louder, and also because the rest of my house is not, I don't want to disturb the whole house. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. And by the way, use headphones because you're gonna hear it better. Not bad. It's actually pretty good. For those who are wondering, this is Universal Music, and you guys can check out the link in the description to sign up if you're interested. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and check out some video editing. All right, you guys. So this is Microsoft Clipchamp. This is the editing software that I use for most of my videos. I know, please don't roast me. I'm basic, but that's just because DaVinci Resolve gives me pain in the rear here. We don't talk about that very much, but long story short, essentially, this is a scratch timeline, and I'm just gonna put in a, let's see, soundtrack, or not even a soundtrack. I just want to put in like a short video portion clip thingy. I put in a couple of them and do a couple minutes worth of it. This is 5 minutes and 20 seconds. And I'm gonna do the export, and then we're gonna talk about the general performance and while this is exporting, and then hopefully it'll be finished by the time I am done. I'm gonna do 1080p. I have access to 4K media because it's there, but this laptop is not made for 4K video editing. You can do it, but if you have less than 16 gigs of RAM, or if you're really going to be doing a lot with the 4K video editing, not doing short clips, like doing like extra long projects, you probably need the i7, or at least the bare minimum, the 1335U at the very least, so you're not struggling to export it. But let's go ahead and start this at 1080p. Don't mind the Minecraft tutorial thing, it's just going to export like that because that's the default that I left it on. So this is unplugged, by the way. I'm doing this unplugged so you guys can get an idea as to how it's going to perform when you're not able to be tethered to the wall. Normally when I do tests like this, I would do them so that it's plugged into the wall so that you guys can see how it's performing as plugged in. But for like this particular instance, I didn't do that because one, it's going to be half the performance, so this will give you a better idea as to how it will perform on battery, while giving you also more accurate numbers as to how it's going to perform in the actual plugged in scenario. So you guys probably double or 2.5 the performance of this, and that's probably what you'll get for the actual plugged in performance. So yeah, I'm just doing my testing a little bit differently this time around so I can get a better result. Now, as far as gaming is concerned, gaming is one of those things that it's kind of hit or miss. So for those who don't understand 1335U, and I'm not a one for benchmarks, but the 1335U really, in my opinion, shouldn't exist. There's a reason why it does, but I'm not going to talk about that. What I am going to tell you is that for the most part, the 1335U is essentially and I mean 99.8% the same as the 1335U. The main difference is that the 1334U is going to be what's considered Iris Xe graphics eligible, which means when you put in the RAM and whatnot, that's going to most of the time it'll activate it. If you've had a Dell Inspiron 3511 for 15-inch version, or if you've had a Dell in general that's a budget segment, some of their i5 chips don't have the Iris Xe graphics sticker like this one doesn't. That's because the type of graphics card it's using on the motherboard is designed where it's locked into Ultra HD graphics until you upgrade the RAM. That's going to be your main difference with 13U. 1335U comes with Iris by default. 134U for not all laptops, but most of them generally is locked at Ultra HD until you put an extra RAM stick in, and then the Iris Xe automatically activates from the motherboard. Also, there are some tiny other differences, like minor spec differences that are like so tiny and negligible you'd never even know that they're actually there, but thus for another video. But that's essentially the gist of it. It's basically the same. Its graphics need to be activated for Iris. That's the only difference. Otherwise, you'll be in Ultra HD. That's the main difference I noticed with it, and I just thought it was worth pointing out because, yeah, I don't think it should exist. But again, it is what it is. It exists. So for the gaming test, I'm actually going to go grab my controller and we're going to launch up Need for Speed here. I can get FPS test here. And with the FPS on Need for Speed, hopefully by the time I'm done with that, it will have the video finished somewhere in the middle. So I'll be right back. Let me go grab my controller and then we'll get started. Alright, you guys, so I'm back here, and I've got two Need for Speed games installed. One of them is Most Wanted, which is 2012 version, and one of them is Need for Speed Rivals. Now, I did test some other games on this device a while back, and I'll throw those numbers up on your screen, but basically, for the general gist of things, all of your esports titles are gonna run pretty decently. Just make sure you cap the FPS to 60, so you guys are not getting micro stutters. Halo, the Master Chief Collection, with Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2 through 4 is going to work flawlessly. Games like Overwatch will work pretty good. Make sure you have those settings on low medium. Valorant will work good at low medium. Halo Wars will play, and Halo Wars is actually really good. Like with Modern Combat 5 and Halo Wars, more of the strategy / indie titles, I actually was pretty impressed. I had no stutters, and I could tell with just by looking at it, it was very close to almost 90 FPS on this thing, so those games are going to run fine. Your graphically intense titles like GTA will work, but if you plan on doing anything like with 5M or LSPDFR, I would get a dedicated GPU because those will crash on you if you do not have dedicated video memory of any kind on your PC. Cyberpunk I did not test. I don't have it on PC, also because I just know it's not going to work. This is 13th gen. It's not the art graphics, so it's not going to work very well. Destiny 2, I tested it. Destiny 2 was the one that was the most pain in the rear game ever to run an iGPU. Destiny 2, while it's optimized for dedicated GPUs, because on the iGPU, it's running with, I think I said iGPU last time. I meant to say DGPU. It is optimized for DGPU because it's running on an iGPU and because the dedicated video RAM is listed as a dummy value. The problem that Destiny 2 runs into on iGPUs is it will run smoothly in loading screens, but as soon as you go into multiplayer, even with the resolution and the settings all the way down to the lowest, it still stutters. And a lot of that is because the optimization for multiplayer compared to single player, the multiplayer optimization requires a dedicated GPU, while the single player and the loading screen optimization is base level is an iGPU config with the optimizations. So you can play single player with like 60 to 70% resolution scaling. When you get into multiplayer, FPS, instead of being like 30 to 45, is going to be more like 15, and you're not going to be able to do anything at all. So it's virtually unplayable in multiplayer. That's the challenge with D2. And as far as the finals and Marvel Rivals, don't. Just don't. Don't do it at all. It's not good. Just don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. I'm now going to go ahead and test Need for Speed Rivals, and once this has been tested on the tutorial, I'm going to come back and the clip, actually, I think the clip champ is actually done, I believe. We're going to check on that as soon as this game test is over, but let's go ahead and do this game test and turn this down. So far, the good thing about Need for Speed Rivals so far is that there's no glitches or anything or driver issues. Most of that was resolved years ago, so this game is really well optimized for iGPUs now at this point. So if you want to run Need for Speed Most Wanted, Need for Speed Rivals, or like any of the older Need for Speed games, you'll be able to do that just fine. I'm in Cop Career, and let's go over here and start at this location. And I'm just going to do a quick drive around, do a little chase with the racer if I can find one, and we're just going to see how that runs. Ooh, that's really loud. Okay. RT to drive. A little bit of some textures at the very beginning, some small artifacting. It's perfectly normal. I think the main thing with the server artifacting when you start off the game is that it disappears as soon as you drive off. So it's not a problem at all. There's a cop driving around. He's about to hit me. LOL. I like how this game has brake to drift, like unlike Need for Speed Heat, which has gas to drift. But gas to drift is more realistic though. So I'm kind of torn on that. All right, so let's see. This is actually really, really smooth. There's no stutters going on. I'm gonna pause it and see if I can find. I'm gonna try and see if I can find the settings. PC. Yeah, so screen resolution is at 1024 by 768. If you really want to, you can turn that up. I don't see why you can't turn it up. Motion blur, you can turn that off if you want to. Lighting quality, turn it down to high. Gamma, turn it up some. Full screen is good. All of this is on ultra and it's running perfectly fine. The resolution is fine too. And here's a chase on the racer. Let's go ahead and start this. I'm a terrible driver with the camera right in front of me. Pretty cool. This guy is fast though. He has a really fast car. I'm a terrible driver. My lord. What is that heat? Oh yeah, I can't drift around these corners. It is a little bit difficult with the resolution up. As far as like I'm just noticing a couple micro stutters, but it's not like bad. I'm gonna just let this expire. Yeah, but yeah, all in all, it's really smooth. Like I'm not having a bunch of issues. I'm gonna just stop here for now. So weird how this thing has a triangle light bar. He's in cooldown, or I'm in cooldown, and there. All right, so that's the gaming test. Really, really, really good. Now let's go ahead and exit back to Windows and let's check on this video editing export and then we'll see how long it took. Right, let's see here. I'm gonna go back to the home screen and yep, So with the time on that, I started it at around 6:08, 6:09, and it actually only took about 6.5 minutes to do 5 minutes and 30 seconds. That's on TP. Now that's pretty good for a Raptor. Yeah, Raptor. So that's not bad. Let me at least look to see how it came out. Yeah, it came out pretty good. This is a pretty good render. It looks great. So it rendered well. I have no issues with the codec encoding any of that. And could tell it's this is pretty good actually. Yeah, no messed up in terms like the actual like video itself. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, so there's only one more thing that I have to talk about, and that's the battery life. So after doing all of that, doing the Need for Speed Rivals and doing the video export, I started this at around 68 to 70% battery. So doing all of that for about 10 to 15 minutes took a really heavy toll. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that this is a 41 watt hour battery and it's not using the new architecture for the newer chips. That means that if you need the performance on battery, if you want a game, or if you need the battery life, I would go with a newer chip with a better architecture, because this is not something that is going to get you through. I would very hesitant to say even 2.5 hours. You'll be lucky to get 2.5 hours on this thing. And for schoolwork and whatnot, it's fine. If you're around an outlet, or if you're in a dorm or something, or if you're on a community college campus like I am half the time, and you're walking between buildings and you're sitting down at a spot for most of the day, you're not going to be there overnight like you would at a university, then I would say this is really good for those that don't need to do power tasks. For those of you that do need to do power tasks, that need a dedicated GPU, I would go with either a higher end laptop, or just get a really thin gaming laptop, like an Asus G14, or shameless plug coming. Shameless plug, just get this thing. If you're a power user that needs battery life and you need that balance, I would say Lunar Lake or Meteor Lake, Hawk Point are good for like video editing, CAD, that sort of thing. If you're a power user but use apps that require x86, you're prioritizing the battery life over everything else. I'm hesitant to say Snapdragon because they have compatibility issues with some things, and the performance on some apps that are being translated is not as good, so I would wait on that one. And I would probably go with the M2 or the M3 MacBook Air, especially the M3, but now that the M2 has 16 gigs of RAM base, I would also consider that one as a viable option if you cannot afford to get the M3. And if you can afford to get it, I would highly suggest getting the 13-inch MacBook Air, especially if you plan to travel, because if you get the 15-inch model, you'll have the screen real estate, but the power is basically the same. The only thing that you're really doing is adding a little bit of weight and adding a little bit more screen to the 15-inch MacBook Air. Unless you really need that, then I could see going for that one. But those are all your better options if you need to do anything way more above a high school student's or even a freshman college student's pay grade, metaphorically speaking. If you need anything more than that, then I would go with one of those. This is going to be fine if you have grandparents and they want a laptop to just watch movies on. It's fine. If you have a middle schooler or a high school student that doesn't need all that stuff yet, they're just getting through classes, this is fine. If you have an elementary school kid, you're putting parental controls on, please put parental controls on. Don't be one of those parents that let their kids play GTA. I'm sorry. I have to say it like that, but it's not a good idea. Please. But if you do have an elementary school kid, whether you want to do parental controls or not, this is also a good option for them too. I will pick up a case though. You know how they like to drop things, but yeah, I was one of those. My sister was one of those. We've all been there. So if you do get one of these for an elementary school kid, get them a case. But yeah, this will be good for them too. And also, put parental controls on. It helps a lot. Anyways, that does it for me, HJ. If you want to get a more dedicated gaming test video that has the actual full-on FPS counters and stuff on them. Leave a comment. I can't guarantee that I'll be able to do it in the immediate future because I'm still doing classes and there's a lot of work I have to do. As we get closer to the end of May, I should have more free time. If you guys want to see a gaming test come this summer, let me know. I'll do my best to try and make that happen for you. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.